T. Higgins is a big piece of news. He's the biggest free agent since Amari Cooper. He's 26, he's 29 TDs, over 4,000 yards. The question is, should the Patriots be going after him? And if so, how hard? Which leads to the next question, what are you getting? Just last week, Mike Tomlin compared him to Shaq, which I loved. And while I don't know if he is a starting NBA center, when you go back and look at the tape, he really is giving off a peak Allen Robinson kind of vibe in the way he's trucking the ball down the field. You know, taking a look at the slant, I mean, it's really typical of what you're seeing. This dude's just running roughshod over defensive backfields, and he's smooth doing it. Look, he doesn't break his stride. He's immediately up inside that safety's face, and he's just taking a few dudes with him for an extra, 10 yards. So even though he's missed some time, I mean, you could state the case that T. Higgins is having something like a career year or a renaissance year at any rate. He's got about 119 rating in his routes. He's got 0 drops. He's got a 2.27 yards per route run. That's close to a career high. He's above 90 for his PFF grade. And man, he has been posting up for the Cincinnati Bengals, whether it's from the slot where he's played a little more or whether it's outside. He's definitely been that sort of power forward role. And yeah, he has been big in the paint for Cincinnati. I mean, look at this 3-step slant he's running for Joe Burrow here. The window for the pass opens up, and this is a big, smooth dude. Joe Burrow gets the ball in a little bit late, and he just kind of reaches back, grabs it, pulls it, and he's into the end zone. And if you want to put a number on this dominance, looking at his over and under 10 air yards, he's hitting at about 90% catch rate under and about 46 over. He's yakking at 5 yards after the catch under and just about 2 over. And he has a clownish 140 rating and anything underneath 10 air yards. And if all of that sounds kind of like a hard sell, it might not be for you, and it wasn't always for me, because, you know, you think T. Higgins is a big guy, he's going to dominate downfield and be a deep ball receiver, but it's not always the case in his career, and it has been the case this year. Going to look at a few reps. We'll start with this one against Denzel Ward of Cleveland on an outside fade. This is a typical trajectory. The ball is coming in up over his shoulder. It's right in his hands. It's actually right in his hands, and Denzel Ward just kind of mugs him and takes the ball away. This really, oddly enough, has not been T. Higgins' strength. And you'd be remiss if you didn't bring up his significant injury history. He has a hamstring every year. He's had 3 ankle problems, a quad in 24, a shoulder, and yeah, fractured rib. But if you look how he plays, he's really paying the cost to be that underneath boss. This Denzel Ward rep aside, which I think, you can see better coming out of T. Higgins than this. You really need to take the whole package into consideration when you're looking at what he's going to be costing you, which by my guess is going to be north of 90 million cash and north of 28 million per year. So some of these reps don't sit well with me, like this one right here against Carolina, and he's going to go up and run a hitch. The ball's maybe a little bit outside of his frame, but I mean, this cornerback basically plays the ball better than he does. And, at first glance, it looks like T's not attacking the ball. But I think it really points to sort of a weakness in his game. These balls might be a little bit outside of his frame, but altogether, that's what you're paying a 6'4" receiver to do. It's really, he's just not a very sudden dude. So the hitch and go game kind of reflects that. You can see that on press right here. He's just not snappy off the line. He never really recovers, and he gets kind of jammed up against the edge. But even if T. Higgins isn't and hasn't been the most dynamic press threat, like an outside threat, he has still been a threat and has been productive. So you'd really be remiss to not take a look at how he has been productive and what he's been actually really, really good at. And we're going to start by looking at 20-plus air yard reps with this both drag and sluggo out of cluster formation to T. Higgins. They're going to kick their outside wide receiver in on short motion, and that is going to cause the defense to have to back off, thus protecting T. Higgins from the press. And you can see the kind of difference that it makes with his ability to get off the line. And now this rep, it's really kind of a defensive mistake, because in a combo coverage like this, the cornerback is really responsible for taking T high, and the safety is kind of playing a wall technique and carrying him across. The corner has no business biting on the slant fake. He's not going there. But it does showcase what is worth scheming for with T. Higgins, because he's got this kind of speed that when he gets going, he's gone. And we're going to see more of what I would call his horizontality, his best route run, and it's a Colorado route, one of my absolute favorites. And it's going to work off this same sort of inside breaking slant, skinny slant kind of a stem against Marlon Humphrey. Humphrey is really going to do his level best here to try and prevent T. Higgins from eating him up inside, but that's going to give T the leverage to make this outbreaking Colorado move and really just go up and shack the ball for Burrow. But what's highly notable is that both his 20-plus yard rep and his best catch point rep are on these in-breaking, out-breaking types of routes, not vertical routes. And I think this post really showcases his natural knack for this kind of play. It really is a get in front of your quarterback kind of route. The short post seems to snap his head around and just have this excellent timing to high point between these two defenders. And that's a theme that really carries right over to his best yak reps. And I deliberately chose this quick hook because even though he's got a lot of good slants, the quick hook is not as conducive to yak, and still he knifes between the coverage on this route. It really shows just a high command of these kind of moves, running that little speed cut and just taking off. So I think the question is, how does his skill set carry over from a very vertical Bengals offense into this very horizontal play action oriented Patriots offense? And I've highlighted this drift rep to kind of get at, maybe how he could be used, because it's over linebackers and under soft coverage and under a safety. And it's not really the most impressive rep from a skills perspective, but it does showcase his ability to sort of focus, find this soft spot in the zone. And I really love how he just sort of absorbs this contact and then tries to actually sort of advance the ball. So it really is useful to maybe look for sort of similar deepish over linebacker, under safety kind of in-breaking routes, these sort of space routes. And I'm going to start with this one with Tyquan Thornton. T is a potential add to what the Patriots have right here. There's just a lot of wasted motion. And ultimately, Tyquan Thornton really covers himself, working himself in between these two defenders. And then when he gets this second opportunity, this second window for the catch, just completely and utterly misses it on contact. This is very contradistinct to how T. Higgins right here immediately makes himself available to his quarterback on this over. And the Patriots offense is positively filled with these sort of in-breaking routes. It's visible on Sunday, and it's extremely apparent in the play action game, where there's anyone you're going to bring in is going to have a lot of opportunities to make those kind of whole shot plays. Going back through T. Higgins' tape to look at some of these in routes, starting with this 10-yard basic, I do think he does have the skill set to actually project into this. This one has a square cut. It's probably less likely to be seen in the Patriots offense, but I love what I see here, this little stab, and then the traffic catch, and he absorbs this contact, and he's going to tag on another 8 yards. Now, I think a rep that's maybe more applicable to the Patriots rhythm offense would be this 12-yard basic with a speed cut, because it's that kind of over the linebackers, under the safeties route where timing and a zone awareness, become really critical factors for the receiver. And if you watch the way that T. Higgins actually catches this in stride and makes that seamless transition to being a ball carrier, it really projects well. But what also projects well is just the sheer number of these sort of spacing concepts that work on the short routes that T's just been tearing the cover off of. This is hitches and go, and the ball is going to get out to Demario Douglas. He's immediately swallowed up. It makes me think instantly of the speed hook and how sudden T. Higgins is once he gets the ball. I'd like to think that if that's T. Higgins catching this here, there's actually a decent chance he could advance it. And the Patriots offense really is sort of loaded with these opportunities, especially slants. I'll go back immediately to this stick dragon rep here with Kayshon Boutte, who's been very good at these, but he is not the hard tackle that T. Higgins is. When we watch T run this kind of a rep, he really is just running through the secondary and dragging people with him. It is an ad. I mean, that is an ad right there on that kind of rep. And, ultimately, the Patriots are probably aiming to get in more play action and more of these, deep horizontal routes. But for now, because of the leaky line and quarterback, it is more of this short stuff that T's also really good at. In the long term, I don't know if he can be this sort of Jordy Nelson figure in this offense that both get you deep and can just take a slant to the house like you see here. But he has this sort of manifold talent that I think, project well. And given what the Patriots have right now, what they need on the offensive line, passing up this short yardage Shaq and Yak guy is not something they can really afford to do.